video I'm going to do a review of the Sig P239. Now this is a pistol that I wasn't really planning on getting necessarily, but there was a killer price. This local store that I got it from here in Alaska had it on the shelf for like $9.50 or something like that, and nobody had touched it in months. I had seen it for months at that store, and finally the manager behind the counter came in, or he was there and I came in, and he was asking me about some other pistol and what I thought of it, like a CZ or something, and or asked me what I think of CZ firearms, and then I expressed interest in the 239, just wanting to fondle it or whatever, because I like the concept behind it, and we'll get into that in a second. But basically, looking at the price tag, he was like, "So, what do you think?" And I was like, "Well, $9.50, not my thing." And I don't believe SIGs are actually worth the money that people pay for them. And he was like, "Well, I really need to get this thing out of here. Like, what do you think? Best offer?" And I was like, okay, to be fair, with everything that it's got with it, I would buy it for $750. And I really think that, you know, an extra $50 off would be better, but just to kind of help him out and not really rip him off, I was like, you know what, $750. So he was like, "Sure." I was like, "Really? Okay, better jump on it while you can, because that's about used gun prices and it's completely new, so I get the full SIG warranty with it, so killer price." Of course, I didn't get 3 magazines, I only got 2, so you're looking at about $50 for an extra magazine. But being a carry piece, which is something I would intend to use this pistol for, I'm fine with 1 extra magazine, but to each his own. So there are law enforcement versions of this. This is basically like the American updated Sig P225, and you know, this comes in at about a height of 5 inches. So it's, when it has a magazine in, it's about the size of the Glock 19 when you have this little extra extension right here, and it has a 3.6-inch barrel. So you know, you want to cater your loads properly to it. So the you know, the SIG 124 grain V Crown is actually a pretty good option, pretty good performer in shorter barrels if you watch my testing on that. But I would also go with the Remington 115 grain jacketed hollow point. I wouldn't go with the Winchester white box. You'd need a little bit of a shorter barrel there, because they tend to go pretty fast and open up pretty aggressively, thereby kind of inhibiting good penetration. So anyways, moving on. The SIG anti-snag 239, it's not really a selling point necessarily that it's an anti-snag, but it's actually a pretty good feature. The one thing that I'm not really a fan of is the short reset trigger. I have no desire for a short reset trigger. I don't need it. I think it's unnecessary, and it's really born out of the misconception that it's actually going to make you shoot better. It may increase your times a little bit, but if you're not a good shooter, then shooting faster isn't going to help you. It just makes you look, you know, worse, because you end up shotgunning a target unnecessarily instead of hitting competently. But I do like that it came with night sights. That's a very good option. I love night sights on pistols when I can get them, and the reason is not because I'm thinking I'm going to be some operator or whatever in low light, but it doesn't. It's not like painted sights where it's going to scrape off. And me using my guns, I tend to wear them out, and sights are one of those things that will just scrape off. So night sights are a really good option for me anyways. So you know, this pistol was an option for me when I was able to get it down to that price point, because I was actually looking at the XDE by Springfield, because it's basically the same idea, same size, same round capacity, but a shorter barrel length by 3.3 inches. So it's basically like a tiny microgun barrel length, like the XDS, which would make it harder to get hollow points that'll work better in it. So I found this to actually be a good option as well. And I'm not really a fan of the way SIG has done their manufacturing as of late, because they've cheapened things up in order to save money, but they still charge you an ass load. And one of the examples I've used is in my review of the Mark 25. just went over the fact that even the cheaper SIGs cost the same as the Berettas, and you know they enhance something, gave it like a stainless steel slide, and then they cheapen the manufacturing on the frame, and they charge more for cheapening it. And their excuse is that most people aren't going to fire more than, you know, a certain amount of rounds, even law enforcement, and before they trade it in or whatever. They basically become a safe queen after they spend a lot of money, but they're riding off the reputation of they're actually well manufactured guns. So in general, I'm not really a SIG fan, but I'm also not really much of a fan for political reasons of Springfield Armory. So it's really one of those things where I have to pick and choose, but I think SIG is the lesser of two evils based on the purpose that this firearm is going to fill. Now, a lot of people have criticized guns like the CCP in the past because they carry one extra round and they're a single stack and they seem to be a little bit bigger. The CCP is about as big as the 239, but of course it's a unique system. It hasn't been all that reliable for me, so I also like hammer-fired guns, so this is a very good concealed carry option. I would have preferred it in 40 caliber 357 SIG personally, but there might be an opportunity to modify this, get a new slide and barrel in order to use it in this firearm. But as of right now, I'm going to stick with it as is, and I'm intending to kind of throw it in the carry rotation at some point in time, and I'm going to be putting a good amount of rounds through it. Of course, it's actually not that bad to shoot, but it does behave a little bit differently than your standard 226 or even some other single stack firearms. So let's go ahead and kind of look at why. So when you break this down, you see that it has a flat recoil spring, a flat wire recoil spring. This is kind of unusual. It doesn't have the coiled recoil spring, and the barrel is actually pretty fat, and it does come with the metal guy rod for all you whiny losers out there. But the barrel is actually pretty fat around the chamber, and of course you got the standard locking block system, and you know, this isn't like the Mark 25 where it has ridiculous phosphate coating, but you can see the wear there. When you have smaller guns, you're going to get more wear, and wear is sexy on guns to me. So I like that. I like getting as much wear as possible. I want it to look used. I want it to actually have some character. So locking block is going to get a little bit more wear there, and that's one thing I like about smaller guns is they tend to show the wear a lot earlier than full-size guns. And the reason why this is actually a good carry option in my view, in my experience, is that when you go with really tiny guns based on the capacity, a lot of people do it for size, but others do it, you know, for weight or whatever. This is a pretty slim firearm, but it's not slim enough to really justify it over a double stack, really. But in general, it is a little bit lighter than, say, a 229. It's about the same size, but it's, you know, a little bit lighter than the 229, and it's actually relatively comfortable, but it has a square feeling up here at the front. I think that is, you know, kind of crappy that it has that squared off feeling like you're holding the front of it. It's like a 2x4, but you know, I find that a good sized single stack, kind of like the XDE or even the CCP, is not really a bad option. It can be thinner. It kind of is thinner than the 226, but it has a pretty robust slide. So with that, that's one of the other reasons I would have preferred it in 40 caliber 357 SIG, since it's already set up for it. And I'm kind of getting into the 40 caliber game anyway, so I don't mind losing one less round in order to get better terminal performance, especially out of a shorter barrel. It's a lot less difficult to shop for rounds that'll be effective out of a shorter barrel. Shorter, not the short is like 3 inches or whatever. But you know, overall, I think this is actually a good option if you can get it at a good price. There are law enforcement trade-in 40 calibers for like $400, $500 on Sportsman's Outdoor Superstore. I'll go ahead and put it in the link in the description below. And I did lubricate this pistol with my new favorite CLP, FUBAR CLP. It's a dual lubricant and cleaner lubricant protectant, but it's also like an insect repellent, a sunscreen, and also it works pretty good for little cuts and burns. So anyways, I'll go ahead and leave links and the discount code for FUBAR CLP, and a little bit goes a long way. So thanks a lot for watching. Look forward to a article on this on my blog at doitright.org. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys have a good one, and put your comments below.